Suzanne, yeah.
Well, first I want to say that your talk last night and this morning was it really resonated with me, and it was very, very useful, and it got me very excited. Just seeing or hearing how my art practice and my, call it meditation practice, can feed each other, because I know that for a long time I've been buying into this version of what meditation or the Buddhist path looks like, and that version. So that's good. And I feel like the kind of the world of the senses is kind of taken care of for me. For as long as I can remember, I've always had a yearning, a really deep yearning to connect with something, we'll call it divine. I was not raised religiously at all, so it didn't have a particular form that it took. And it kind of evolved over the years. And when I was an adult, I had some kind of mystical experiences that I misinterpreted. I kind of interpreted them as, let's say, kind of Buddhism 101 about all things are connected, and I had some synchronistic experiences. And then when I learned about emptiness, it was like, oh my God, I knew it. It just seemed to all make sense, and I just developed this passion for experiencing the unfabricated. And I know that it can slip into craving sometimes, but in our meeting yesterday, you mentioned to me that you don't have to meditate. And you know that because of my physical limitations, I don't think that I'm not going to be able to meditate, but I know that I'm going to have to kind of try different things and be flexible. So I'm wondering, can you have, and like you were saying, well, you don't have to meditate to become enlightened, but what does enlightenment look like if you're not sitting on the cushion, in terms of, can you have an experience of the unfabricated? Or, like, I know I've heard all these stories about, there's a monk and then, he met Buddha and Buddha said this and he instantly became enlightened. What does that mean? Is it the same thing as having a cessation experience, or is it something else? Is it something different for everybody? I would think not, to a certain extent. There's a certain knowledge that you gain, right? I'm done.
Okay. So, let me see if I get this.
I want to know that I just want to know that I'm kind of moving in the right direction. I don't want to go off and think, oh, well, I could just, do this. And then that's not really a good direction to go in. And I'm not expecting you to tell me what direction, but I need to know that I can kind of get where I want to go.
You can. I'm just trying to summarize that. Is the basic question, just given what's happening physically right now and with health, etc., that and you feel like long meditation sessions and frequent meditation sessions are not within the capabilities of the body right now, is it still possible to get enlightened? And is that kind of enlightenment that I might get without long and frequent meditation the same kind of enlightenment as as
The phrase you used, the beyond, that's very,
okay.
that resonates with me. So can I experience the beyond?
Yes. So I'm
I don't get it when you're not meditating.
yeah. So thank you. I don't recall saying to you, you don't need to meditate.
No.
No.
I thought that.
Yeah, that's interesting. What I did say was meditation might not look like what you have a picture of. So if someone asks me what is meditation, what is insight meditation, etc., people give all kinds of descriptions and this and that, and it's this, and then they think it's a certain posture or a certain this or that or concentration or a great deal of still, whatever. To me, it's just, in a nutshell, practicing a flexibility of ways of looking, and seeing what comes out of that flexibility of ways of looking, and an understanding or understandings come out of that have to do with, with all kinds of things, but primarily emptiness. That doesn't have to look a certain way. So to make a distinction between meditation, on retreat, on the cushion, etc., and not, I feel that's overdone.
What about like walking meditation? Can you become enlightened during a session of walking meditation?
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at the suttas and all that, there's loads of stories of that. Yeah. So to me, it's a strange. There's a hierarchy, first of all, between the four postures: sitting, standing. Sitting. I don't know what order most people put them in, but sitting's usually the best one, apparently. It's like this is all. If we just take the Buddha right now, there's four postures. There's four postures, and even in the division between retreat and not retreat, and long meditation sessions, long meditation retreats can be really fruitful, but they're not. It might not be where a person's most transformative insights and liberations come. And I have spent a lot of time on retreat and long, all this and that. But even if I look back at that, I wouldn't pinpoint the long times or the long sessions or all of this as the times that, I don't think it stacks up that way. I don't think that bears up to scrutiny, really. We have these ideas, and I shared with Suzanne, when I was like 21 or something, and I was on retreat at IMS, and I had all this crazy energy stuff happen, and the teacher asked me, sit at the back of the room, because you're disturbing people. So I sat at the back of the room, you're still disturbing people, etc. Go away. And I was sat over the other side of the courtyard, outside of the meditation room, in my room by myself, etc. And eventually asked me to leave. And I was 21, I was living in a foreign country. I was so passionate about the path, I so wanted enlightenment and awakening. And I remember after he said, it's better for you to leave, you're going to hurt yourself, you need a certain thing he recommended. And I was devastated. I was absolutely devastated. And I told you this story, and I walked up that road. I was like, how am I going to get enlightened now? And to me now, looking back, it was not. I really feel for him and that kind of passion. But it seems like I was naive. Just that sort of simplicity. If I can't do long retreats, then I won't get enlightened. If I can't sit a long time still, so.
I guess I had this, because I started just getting into this jhana practice, and then been trying not to be attached to that, but also thinking, less and less fabrication, like that's how it's going to happen. And
through the jhana practice?
Yeah.
Not necessarily. That's one way that things unfold that way. I just, what can I say?
And I've had a lot of teachers say to me, don't do that, or don't meditate. And you've heard that.
Yeah.
If I know that there are ways other than jhana practice, and I know that the thing is that jhana practice is just supposed to get you to a place where you can do insight, right?
No.
No?
No. That's the way it's often taught. It's either. First thing, I just want to put in right now. So teachers are important. So right now we're having this dialogue, and I'm the teacher, and you're the student, and that I really recognise the support of that, and also I kind of in this moment I'm feeling a little uncomfortable with it. Partly to do with what is, this is such a big tricky area, what is one's relationship with teachers and outside authority and people who say it's like this and like that. And so, for example, that idea about jhana, there's so much there, but for that idea about jhana practice, what you got in, and just talking about the insight meditation tradition now, jhana was kind of taboo territory for a long time. Then you get certain teachers who begin to teach jhana, and some of them say you need jhana, just like you said, because jhana will sharpen the mind, and etc., etc. This is all just kind of dogma, really. Jhanas can be really helpful for lots of different reasons to some people, and for others they're just not a big factor on the path. So I don't buy, and I certainly don't buy this thing about sharpening the mind and then you can do insight. I just don't buy it at all. So I'm not sure what would help you.
You've clarified it, and you've given me what I needed. I think the problem is, as a teacher, I know that there are a lot of teachers who teach a way of doing things, and one reason that I always love talking to you is because you can kind of encourage me to do what's right for me, whereas a lot of other teachers are saying, no, don't do this, and then I start doubting, but I don't want to do that. I still want to meditate.
Yeah. But again, I would just open up what that word meditate means. If I look back to me when I was 21 years old, I had to, there was a different thing going on, but there was a period of time when I didn't meditate, and I so cared about it, but that period of time and everything that came out of that and everything that I learned and the body work that I did and all that, it was so helpful, So I'm not a doctor, I don't know, but I don't think what you're going through is going to last your whole life. It's a period, and meditation is more than sitting still and getting the mind to shut up. If it was that, all right, it's nice, but there's so much more. If you have this broader view of what meditation means, it's something much more creative. And things like insights into unfabricated and fading and that sort of thing, they come. It's not so. You have to really. The person who sits 12 hours straight, that's the person. It's not like that. And the jhana thing as well. Sometimes people say, I sat there and I didn't have a thought for 2 days or something, and it's like, okay, where's the insight? There's, it doesn't stack up. So, and I'm not saying it's not worth it, but it's not like a one-to-one correspondence at all. And in terms of the unfabricated as well, sometimes, and this is not textbook, but sometimes one has the perfume of that. Even without meditating, you walk in nature, it's somewhere, or even when you're with someone, there's something we sense. And that's meditation. What's happening there? The way of looking is opening up, the perception is getting attuned to something. I can't put it into words. I can sense it somehow, or beyond sense or whatever. These are the kind of things, they start working their way into your life. Not only do they stack up, but they also bring a certain amount of liberation. So before you've had the experience, as if there is, well, let's leave that, but these things give you a faith that you feel in the marrow of your bones, in something like that. So all of this, and then the last thing is, and I also said this to you the other day, and it relates to what I was, partly what I was talking about yesterday and today, is that you're gonna, I heard what you said at the beginning, but you're gonna want a big fat liberation, not just a deep liberation, a wide one, because of the art and because of, do you understand? So it's like how you find your path, create your path, discover it, is going to have to include all that, you know, rather than getting too tight around. Yeah. So right now I'm not sure what else to say, but
You don't need to say anything else.
okay. Okay. So, yes. If I'm squinting, it's because the light is a bit from here to my eyes. But anyway, it's Johan, yes.
So I was working with an image, an imaginal image.
Yeah.
And this sort of like brought me to your jhana. You know?
Yeah.
And I just don't quite understand how that works. I mean, I see like the image is sort of related to stillness. It's actually the image is about the stopping of time. I don't know, like it's a poetic image, and it's just sort of like I can see sort of you know, like space, like stars and stuff like that. Just like as it'll be moving to that, and all of a sudden it freezes. And then here's the jhana. It happens quite frequently, but I don't quite understand like how the process you say of like, because there's eros there. Like I love this image. I know there's something about it. I just really love it, but it doesn't lead to more complicated. You know,
Yeah, sure.
It leads to unfabricated.
Yeah. Thank you. So Johan's describing something that seems to be occurring quite regularly with the same image. There's an image that has to do with stopping of time and kind of cosmic in terms of galaxies and stars and things. And there's eros with that image. There's beauty, and is it actually from a line of poetry or is it stimulating? Just a poetic image, yeah. So something is touching, the poetry of it is touching the soul, and is a little bit surprised how sometimes that leads into jhana, or quite frequently into jhana. And rather than what I was saying, whenever it was that imaginal work tends to create more complexity and branch off in this. This is actually leading into more simplicity, less fabrication. Yeah, this has actually come up a couple of times in here. This is really common. So why is it happening? I think it happens because when something is imaginal, the energy body responds, first of all, and comes into some kind of harmony or alignment or openness or something like that. And if the mind sort of, part of the mind gets or attention gets captivated by that what's happening in the energy body and the kind of harmonization there, it will just go into a jhana, because focusing on that is a jhanic state. So anytime there's an image, now it doesn't have to be an image of like stopping time or space or some kind of image of stillness. It could actually, it was you, Johan, the other day asking about an image of anger. You know, do you remember that? So it could even happen with an image of anger. You think, here's this, not the image you were alluding to, but maybe some image of some, you know, stomping, monstrous, raging, you know, dragon god or something, and it's all this fire and and the power of that can be felt in the energy, but there's a resonance with that. The anger itself is kind of transmuted alchemically into whatever its kind of gold equivalent is, so to speak. But the energy body kind of starts resonating with that energy, and one of the options is that it enters jhana. So it's like, I think I was saying, was it yesterday, at any point with imaginal practice, you can kind of glide in any direction. You get to have a little more say sometimes it just takes you. But because of the energy body involvement, there will always be a possibility of samadhi, kind of that you can always lean off into that. At the moment it sounds like it's kind of happening because that the energy body constellates that, and then probably the attention is just getting captivated by it. But as you develop, it will become more and more a sort of intentional possibility. So you could always just do that, let the image go. You could say, very nice energy body stuff, but I want to go further with the resonances with the image. So you don't so much go so much into the samadhi, and then you can play with the emphasis of attention, like how much attention is on the meaningfulness or the beauty or the poetry of the image, how much is on the energy body, how much is on the emotional impact. You know, with time, all this kind of, it's like you've always got these kind of, what would be a good image, analogy? Not quite sure, but you got this sense of being able to lean in multiple directions. Also, with terms of like how much attention am I giving the image versus how much my own process or my own self, the way the self is constellating in the imaginal constellation. So you got things like self, other, world, and the eros itself, all of which can be imaginally infused, come alive as image. You understand?
Yeah.
And then you've also got things like the emotional aspect, the energetic aspect, the samadhi aspect, the image aspect, and you can kind of just, sometimes you're just taken but into one or other. Sometimes you need to rebalance things. I think I alluded to that on the second night's talk. Sometimes we're too much in the image, or too much with the self, or too much, like the self needs to come alive imaginally. It's all over there, the divinity for it. So there's all these options. Sometimes it's kind of you're balancing things so that there can be more steadiness and equanimity and fertility with the image. And sometimes you're just making a choice out of curiosity, and sometimes you're just taken one way or another. But so I'm answering more than you're asking. But do you get a sense of what can evolve here? So not at all uncommon. Not at all uncommon. I mean, it also happens with not imaginal things. So sometimes one way people kickstart a jhana or samadhi is just by remembering something that brought happiness, for instance, and then that happiness infuses the being, and then there's just a gentle sort of inclining the mind to that happiness. So sort of getting into the happiness and letting it suffuse. And for some people, that's a way into jhana. You know, so it's a little bit similar to that as well, but that's not so imaginal.
So the image just falls away, right? You know, after samadhi is established. But I wonder now if it's because I think I'm just too absorbed by the jhana itself or the samadhi itself, and I sort of let the image go because I thought, okay, well, it's just brought me what I wanted.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, absolutely. But this, so you're saying the image falls away into samadhi, and you let it go because the samadhi is what you want.
Well, I didn't realize I was doing that.
Yeah.
I just thought it was like a natural thing that like the image just sort of goes away because, I don't know, it's not an erotic movement anymore, but it's really interesting.
I have more the feeling that as it unfolds more and more, you'll realize that you can, like sailing or something, you can kind of lean the different ways and kind of guide it. And I mean, a little bit related to Suzanne's question, you know, samadhi is great. I really, really value it, you know, and jhanas and all that. But I can't remember what I've said in talks. But if there's a lot of eros in a soul, that won't satisfy. It will satisfy. It was part of what we want, but it's like there will be something that wants the image as well.
You're going to get bored after a while.
I mean, a jhana by definition is a non-bored state, but something in the soul, in one's life, will get, okay, that's enough. You know, that's not enough, but it's like, I want more soul-making. I want more of the poetry. Yeah, so I would keep both options open, you know, and some people have long periods of time when they're more leaning this way or that way. Other people, or as it unfolds, you might just go back and forth more sort of regularly between the two. Does that?
Yeah.
Yes, it's both, yeah.
So I'm very new to this. I'll do the English thing and apologize for anything that's not correct. But you have planted some really beautiful seeds, both of you. And I wanted to cross-pollinate a little bit with some things related to the body. And one of the things I think you said is that image is primary and experience is secondary, or image is primary.
Yeah.
So image is primary, and was reflecting a little bit on some some lines of research that have come out about the body. One is in the area of connective tissue that talks about that our tissue is not inert, but it's always moving all the time, kind of in what has been called intelligent chaos. And then also, embryologists are starting to say that we don't lose the embryo. As adults, it's still present in our bodies, and that motion is primary, and form, our shape, our body, the way we think about it, is secondary. So in thinking about fabrication, I have been hearing things like the body doesn't have a soul, the body is a soul. And I'm wondering if part of the beauty of all of these exercises is a sort of, you talked about who is the soul making for? Could the fabrication and the soul making be part of stepping into a sort of, if there is one, a soul of the body through all these many threads, nature and the connection with two-ness and just there are times when I think in my experience here, it's just feeling like there's a moment where there's music you're stepping into. It's like there's a process, and the body is a process, not a finite thing. So I just want to check that out, and it's not super well formed at all.
I wouldn't be sure how to sum that up. Is it?
And it doesn't even have. I mean, it may not be the right.
Can I try? Are you asking like whether instead of image being primary, we could view body as being primary? Is that part of what you're asking?
Yes, and are they different?
Oh, okay, very good. Okay, so Bo's asking, well, you just heard, and then the question was, are they different? Did you get that? So, yeah, beautiful. Thank you very much. So here's the thing. And
there's one, one tiny thread, which is that part of what we're doing here seems very devotional, like very bhakti in nature. Like it's part of our devotional practice to do these things. Anyway,
yeah.
I'm wondering.
Yeah. And Bo's also saying that part of what we're doing is very devotional and has bhakti in it, and that's part of it. And maybe what's the connection between that and the first part of the question? Okay, so here's how I might frame it or think about it. We have eros as human beings. Let's start. So you can. Here's the thing. If everything is empty, and any conceptual framework, including the scientific, cannot possess a claim to the singular truth of things. You understand? Do people get so? Classical science, fantastic. Wonderful. Embryology and all this stuff, brilliant. It has wrapped up in that as a whole conceptual structure, way of thinking, assumptions. Great, very fruitful. Is it the ultimate truth of things? Is it the singular truth? No. Starting from those premises and looking at things and asking questions from those premises unfolds certain experiences and truths. Starting from some other premise will you understand? So what if we start, and we could start anywhere. We could start where you started with the body. We could start with the idea that image is primary. But if someone asks me, is that an ultimate truth? I say, no, of course it's not an ultimate truth. Once you've seen something about reality and about epistemology and about all that, you start to realize, oh, I participate in truth-making. And I participate in world creation and perception creation, if you like. And so we can just play with entertaining certain concepts and conceptual frameworks and seeing what they open. So we could start with the idea that body is primary, and motion in the body, as you were alluding. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. We could start with the premise that body is not separate from soul. You could start with the idea that image is primary. And so when you say this is primary, it's like already suggesting, what happens if we take that as a basic principle? Instead of, for example, my psychological history is primary, or whatever, or materiality is primary, all of which are fine as sort of starting angles that will then kind of give a different perspective on some kind of not kaleidoscopic, but who remembers those disco balls that you know, they're kind of like, you can't, it's like reality kind of, yeah. I am really cool, by the way. In case you're wondering. So we could start with images primary. We could start with what you said, absolutely. Each will unfold as... Now, we could start with eros is primary. In a way, this retreat is kind of leaning in that direction. Or what happens if we just pick up the eros thread and find out what eros is through our experience and what opens from that? So a little bit, that's what we're doing on this retreat. Or you could start again with just, I think I tossed it out at some point, the soul loves soulmaking. This is my axiomatic proposition. The soul loves soulmaking. What the hell do you mean? Okay, so I unpack what I mean. It ends up being a bit of a circular definition, but ends up being really fertile. So if I take, let's say we take eros as primary. So it's like, I have in my time, in my experience, I notice in my life where there's eros. And wherever it moves towards, now that could be already the body. It could be materiality, it could be my lover, it could be the transcendent or whatever. And I just trust that eros, and I investigate the experience of eros psychologically and phenomenologically, what it does and what it opens. Then I will find that it starts, as I said, it starts to kind of, everything gets subsumed in that. And everything gets made sacred and made kind of valid, if you like. So if I start with my body is just not ensouled, eventually I will come to through experience, the perception will open up that the body is soul. You understand? Now another person might start more from there. That's where their eros goes immediately. Another person seems a million miles from there. Somewhere they want the unfabricated, they want to go beyond form, all that stuff. If we allow the eros and allow that fire to catch, it will eventually catch everything. It will eventually discover more things, more facets, more sacrednesses. It will discover soul everywhere. It will create soul everywhere. Do you understand? So that in a way there ends up being this unlimited kind of perspectives, and unlimited soul-making, and unlimited end-souling. And you say, which is first? Just follow your experience, follow your own unfolding. And so if you start with this there's both conception in what you're saying about the body, there's certainly personal experience. You have a felt experiential connection with body and bodies and the investigation of that and the experience of that and the understanding of that. There is eros there, conceptually, experientially, soulfully for you. If you do that, then it will go to other things. Someone else, it's the other way around. Just making, yeah. So and then you end up with this, like, because I could have just cut all that and just said, yes. You're right, and so is someone who says something else, and so is something, because of this, there's something, to me, it's like quite radical sort of, I don't know what you'd call it, like shaking up of the whole notion of truth and objective reality, etc. And just if we follow the kind of thread of this retreat, it's like, we have this experience of eros. If we just name it, we begin to then see what it does a bit more. And then we say, I'm going to trust this, I follow it. And then you start to see what it does experientially, erotically, soulfully, psychologically, philosophically. Yeah, all this, conceptually, all of that. So it's like, it's all right, it's all true. Does this make sense? And so the devotion is exactly connected with that, because the devotion, where there's devotion, there's eros. Where there's eros, there's devotion. Again, this might not be so obvious at first. You feel into, let me explore my experience of devotion. Let me explore my experience of eros. Or as I said, just in the imaginal, here's an image, and you start to realize, as I hang out, I start to notice, oh, there's devotion here. Oh, there's eros here. And then I trust that, and then that's how that threads into the other. I'm just following my devotion. The whole thing opens up conceptually, experientially, heartfully, soulfully, physically, energetically. You understand? So those two parts of your question are extremely related. The bhakti, the devotion, it ends up being a kind of philosophical opener as well as an experiential opener. Yeah? Does this make sense?
The bhakti being a philosophical opener?
Well, just what I just said. The devotion is, where there's devotion, there's eros. Where there's eros, if we get interested in it and don't get in its way and allow it to do its thing, it will instigate, inseminate, ignite that soul-making process, which starts changing my experience of things. So it changes my experience of body, of what my body is as a thing, as this, from the point of view of subject, from the point of view of expression. Everything, it gets the image, the sense, the experience, the felt sense, the ideation, and that's where the philosophy bit comes in. This is why soul-making is so significant. Because we're every dimension of the being, we're experientially, it's got this expansion and this I know it, I taste it, and not only that, I know it in a way that's important to me, and everything comes in to support that: the ideation, the conception, the philosophy, the psychology, the emotion, the energy, etc., etc. Does that? Yeah. I'm happy taking up. Yeah, okay, sure.
Can I ask a question?
Yes. So Nick's.
I'll say it for him.
Yeah. This is from Nick's. But does your bear have a name?
Bear.
Bear. So Bear is asking.
He's enjoying your teachings. He thinks they're quite good. But he'd like you to justify your claim that there's no such thing as bear attention.
Very nice. I bow to his greater wisdom. Sit at his feet. Let's just have a bit of quiet.
Thank you for listening. To learn how you can support